Welcome back to another Stampede Blue Colts cast, ladies and gentlemen. As always, brought to you by Mike Ernest and his Indy Home Pros team. Put the #1 real estate team in Indiana on your side by calling Mike Ernest at 317-285-9691. Folks, thank you for coming back. Tonight, we've got a great guest, somebody we know quite well who's risen the ranks up to Colts.com, our old friend Jake Arthur. Jake, what's popping, buddy?
Hey, what's up, brother? Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
Absolutely. Has been a while. How's everything going at Colts.com?
It's going great so far. Hopefully a step in the right direction for me, making this my regular day in and day out job. It definitely gives you a little more taste once you're halfway there. You get a little antsy. So
yeah,
hopefully I can make an impact soon.
It's been awesome, man, seeing your work and seeing you on the official site for the Colts. That's pretty cool. I'm excited to get and shoot it with you a little bit down there at training camp here in a couple weeks. I'm excited. I got that first week off completely from work, so we'll be coming down there several times, over that first couple weeks of training.
Oh, yeah.
So should be a good time.
Looking forward to that. Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So Jake, I mean, there's really very little this time of year going on with the Colts, but a couple things as of late. Let's talk a little bit of fun first. The Madden ratings were out, my man, and what was it? I think Jabal Sheard and T.Y. Hilton were the only two to really get a solid grade. Those both were up at 89. Luck was at 87, somewhat kind of I wouldn't say unsuspected, but at least it seems like Madden's given him the credit for being, a top 5 quarterback in 2016 coming into this, despite being injured and being on that part of the, the injury spectrum, I guess you could say. But most of what some of these are kind of interesting. Some of the, I mean, Hilton was 89, like I said, Sheard was 89, but they're like Matthias Farley is an 80, Malik Hooker's a 78. I mean, I kind of get that a little bit because Malik was a rookie and then got hurt, but it kind of seems some of these are a little different. But overall, what was there any of these that kind of stuck out to you, like bad or good or anything like that? Because, dude, I mean, honestly, I've been kicking ass in Madden lately. I've been getting in there and rustling my kid out of the way and taking his Xbox One and getting online and playing a little bit. And I've been throwing down, man. Been throwing down. So I'm kind of anxious for this new game to come out. I have a PS4, so I'm kind of partial to that, but I'll play on any of them. And I'm kind of excited for it to get out. I might get back online through my PS4 again.
I hear you, man. I haven't given the ratings much thought yet because I unfortunately don't get to play as much as I used to. When I did play, like, that's all I would do basically. I mean, like, it would completely monopolize my time. So I just haven't played in the last several years just because I know what road that goes down for me.
Yeah, I hadn't played in like
now the rating. Yeah, I'm sure how the ratings go now aren't any different because that's one game that almost never changes, at least not too drastically.
Right.
But people's physical attributes and things count way more towards their overall rating than anything else. But I don't really know how much you could change that in a video game. Like, you can't really measure intangibles and like your football IQ and stuff like that.
Right.
So it basically is, how strong or fast someone makes them so much better. But I don't think any of us are really surprised that the Colts ratings are lower than you would think, at least for some individual players, because not many people outside of Indiana right now really understand how the team operates and how much better they actually do look. So, I mean, considering players' attributes and their ratings and everything go up throughout the season and they update rankings and stuff, I'm sure within 3-4 games or something, we'll start to see a little more respect out there. Even if the team isn't doing well per se, like there will be individual players who are outperforming their rankings. That's just always going to happen.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I like it kind of like you said. I hadn't played in probably, I want to say about a year or so, maybe a year and a half. And then I kind of got into it, have my cup of coffee in the morning, go in there and wake the boys up, like, scoot your butt over. I'm gonna tear somebody up real quick. But so
I honestly been thinking about it a little more lately because, I mean, honestly, I kind of credit Madden with making me like as knowledgeable as I became about football and the Colts and everything. Because my football fandom really took after I first started playing Madden back in like junior high or something, and it made me a lot smarter of a football fan, honestly. So I have been considering it, but like I already said, like I just don't know if I'll be able to peel myself away from it once I start playing a lot. Plus,
Right.
I'm still stuck on a PS3, and I've had that since probably 2008, I think. So I'm also a cheapskate when it comes to buying material things,
Right.
anything that isn't food.
I hear you. Dude, those games are ridiculous, man. It just so happens that a lot of things work out for my boy to where he should ask for those games for a birthday or something else, you know, right for it or after it comes out or whatever. So, dude, talk to us a little bit about what you've been doing on Colts.com. You've been doing a little bit of fantasy stuff. You've been doing some previews of games that are coming up already. What's the one thing you've written thus far right now that you think's most relevant to the Colts right now heading into the 2018 season?
What have I written? What about the Colts? You're kind of breaking up there.
What topic have you written about on Colts.com thus far since you've started there that you think's most relevant?
Well, okay, so when basically the week I started, I think was veteran mini camp. So a lot of that was just like up to the date, like kind of building things around quotes that guys were giving. But lately, in the last week or two, I've been doing a lot of individual player features, just kind of building up to training camp, you know, get to know a little more of their traits and what they're up to. So some of that stuff's going to be coming out. And then right now, almost every day, I'm going to have a game preview week by week coming out. So yesterday was week 1 Bengals. Today was week 2 Redskins. And I'm also going to have a corresponding fantasy preview for some of the more fantasy relevant players. So Luck came out yesterday. Marlon Mack came out today. Nyheim Hines is up tomorrow. So that's a lot of the stuff that's coming out right now is those game previews and the fantasy previews, and then more of those individual player features. That's most of what you're going to see from me up until camp opens on the 25th. So it's making me learn quite a bit. It's not as newsy stuff that I had gotten used to for a while. So I've had to do a lot of research. It's kind of freed me up to do that. So that's good.
Yeah. It's always more fun, I think, researching throughout a topic, finding some answers that you didn't either know that were there or you didn't expect to be there, you know, just whatever. But throughout the research is always the funnest and I guess most self-rewarding type articles to write. It always seems like, though, the more you research on some of those seem to be less popular, you know, among or just whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
The more time, more time you spend on something, the less rate.
Yeah, like literally 2 days of looking and checking on everything, and then you find out, oh, cool, this one's not near as popular as that one that I wrote 250 words. So, I mean, dude, we're looking at like some really cool camp battles, I think. I was kind of talking about the running back position the other day, and as much as I'm a fan of Nyheim Hines, I did a little bit of research myself on some of these backs with the Turban PED violation looming, with, you know, kind of looking at the build and the type of style of running that guys like Marlon Mack do, Jordan Wilkins. He's going to have Christine Michael in there in the mix and Ferguson and whatnot. But this running back crew has just really gotten my attention, like quite a bit. I'm pretty excited to watch it, but I've kind of given Jordan Wilkins quite a bit of pump, you know, thinking that he has an opportunity, a legit opportunity to actually be the starter, like being the first quarterback, more or less, getting more touches in the first quarter than he probably does throughout the season. Because if you kind of look at Frank Reich's past, you see the big backs, the guys that like to run outside. They like to run outside when he was in San Diego and the past 2 years in Philly. So they really are like kind of running those outside zone running attempts, and it's really helping. They've been one of the most successful running back teams last year in those in the first quarter and running outside the guards. With LeGarrette Blount, Ajayi, when he came through, was kind of a two-headed prone attack of 220 plus backs. But that's kind of Jordan Wilkins right now. 216, 6'1", big boy, kind of a finesse runner, not the power back guy. But that style of running, in my opinion, really benefits his opportunity to take a crap ton, in my opinion, carries throughout the first quarter of each game.
Yeah, I think it's real interesting right now, especially with the Turbin suspension, and then Marlon Mack not having been able to participate in team stuff this spring because of the shoulder. Hopefully he is able to participate from day one in camp, because that'll at least help clear things up quite a bit. Because I think most of us kind of assume that Mack is at least going to get the first shot at being the number one guy,
right?
Just because this is year 2, and that's probably what they drafted him for anyways last year. So they'll at least give him the shot to do that. But I agree with you about Wilkins. And I think I've even written something at Stampede Blue shortly after he was drafted, talking about, there is a possibility, he could be capable of being that guy too. Bigger body, capable of fitting the run style that it looks like Sirianni and Reich probably prefer. He can catch. Maybe didn't have a ton of experience doing it at Ole Miss, but I think his pass pro was adequate, but there wasn't, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure you can attest to that, there wasn't much tape on his pass pro.
No, and the little bit there was, I don't think very good.
Okay, yeah, that was it. I mean, he's a bigger guy, so he's probably capable of it, but at the same time, you have to be able to pick up and diagnose those things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. I kind of fully expect this to be a 3 or 4 man attack throughout the year. Just some of the stuff I've been searching, especially off the Marlon Mack fantasy piece from today. I was looking at what the Eagles did under Reich and their running backs. In 2016, I think there were 3 running backs who made up about 86% of the Eagles' touches, backfield touches. And then 2017, it was 4 guys who made up 90%. It probably would have been 3 guys at 90%, but Darren Sproles got hurt in like week 3 or 4. So
right,
they like to keep it to like 3 or 4 guys. And if there's no one ball dominant guy, then they will spread it around and let guys have their role. I think what could determine if someone really grabs a hold and becomes the leader of the pack is how they perform in Robert Turbin's roles while he's gone.
Yeah.
If someone proves capable in pass protection and short yardage, then that could go a long way. That all these guys can catch. So
right.
It pretty much will say, hey, I'm capable of being a 3-down back. And not just the type that can do all 3 things, but that can be there in every down throughout a drive.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys can do everything, but they aren't necessarily the type that will sustain an entire drive. They're just in there situationally. But yeah, the running back group, honestly, like you said, that's going to be one of the most interesting battle camp. I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm like you said, there's those situations with these backs where somebody's got to be able to prove that they can block. They've got to be able to do everything within the offense. And those are the guys, whoever that is, despite it being whatever they keep wanting to say that it's a running back by committee, which it ultimately will be, of course. But they're going to have to be that guy who is the guy at some point, whether it be in week 1, week 8, week 16, don't know. But somebody's going to have to be that guy, right? I mean, somebody's going to have to step up and be the guy who, when Reich is looking for something to happen, and it could be anything, whether it be to stay in and block, or whether it could be to get those, short and 2 or like 3rd, 4th down and 2 or something like that. If Turbin's not there, somebody's got to be able to step in and do that. It doesn't have to be the same guy, but there's got to be a guy that can come in and be diverse enough to where he can do multiple things in pressure situations. That's really going to be the key. And I think it'll be fun watching how we have a couple rookies. We have a couple guys who haven't really gotten any playing time. And then we got Mac, who, in my opinion, I think most people's opinion, it's kind of his to lose. But it may not be his to lose for very long. That's kind of the interesting thing. He's got to get on the field. He's got to be noticed. He's got to be a guy, a real back, a real 3-down threat, in my opinion, from day one in camp to really get the attention of Reich and the rest of the coaching staff.
Yeah, I think unless you're a guy who has career equity like T.Y. Hilton or Jack Doyle, where no one wonders what type of player you are, you've already got years of tape out there showing the type of player you are. Like you said, with a guy like Marlon Mack, he doesn't really have that. Like we've seen him be behind Frank Gore, where Gore dominated the touches for an entire year. We don't know if Mack can handle the load and be a 3-down back yet. So that leash is shorter for those guys who are getting a new opportunity to try and be the top dog. Because if they don't grab that, then they're going to have to give reps to the next guy to see if he can be it.
Right.
And there aren't a lot of guys on this roster who do have that type of equity, like T.Y. or Doyle or Anthony Costanzo, guys like that. So that is why so many spots on the roster throughout each part of the depth chart are pretty much wide open.
Yeah. And that's kind of, feeding into Bauer's situation, or not situation, but that's feeding into Bauer's theme of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really has that staple on their forehead that says I'm a keeper no matter what. So everybody's going to have to bust their ass to really earn this 53 roster spot. It's going to be fun to watch throughout. Mm-hmm. Man, there's more camp battles, and we'll get to those here in just a minute. But I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Mike Ernest, and his Indy Home Pros team. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, you need to call Mike Ernest at the Indy Home Pros team. Mike and his team of real estate professionals are experts in the greater Indianapolis real estate market, and they've helped people just like you achieve their real estate goals, whether it's using the latest marketing and social media tools to sell your home or using the combined experience of his entire team to find the right home for you. You can rest assured knowing that no one knows the ins and outs of buying and selling homes in the Indianapolis area better than Mike Ernest. Guys, if you are buying or selling your home, give Mike Ernest a call or check him out online. You can call him at 317-285-9691, or you can catch him online at circlecityforsale.com. Again, 317-285-9691 or circlecityforsale.com. Get a hold of Mike Ernest, folks, if you are buying or selling your home in the Indianapolis area, guaranteed to hook you up with the pad of your dreams. So, Jake, take a quick 5-second pause right here, my man. We'll come back and talk a little bit about what the Colts didn't do in the supplemental draft. Welcome back, folks. Here with Jake Arthur again. Jake, let's talk, man. Supplemental draft, Colts balk. As far as we know for right now, we don't know if they put in any extra bids or any bids or anything in any of the rounds where somebody was selected. But the Colts did not land any of the players in the supplemental draft. The Giants took Sam Beal. The Washington Redskins in the 6th round took Virginia Tech's Adonis Alexander. Brandon Bryant was left as UDFA. He's apparently going to the Jets. And then there was a couple other guys that really no one was talking about. Martavius Carter, running back from Grand Valley State, and Oregon linebacker Bright Ugwogbu. That's my best interpretation of that name. So the Colts did not select anybody in this supplemental draft. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I know that you don't know anything about whether there were bids placed in there or anything like that, nor would I ask you if you did. But are you surprised at all that the Colts didn't try to land any of these guys, or is this par for the course with Chris Ballard? It's who you've got. They like who they've got. They've said it several times. He and Reich both. They like what they've got in the secondary. But most people kind of think that there's a possibility that thought that there was a possibility at least that they would try to grab one of these, talented defensive backs going into the 2018 season, add a little bit of depth, add a little bit of flash, something like that. But otherwise, I think people kind of figure this is Chris Ballard.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if they put in any bids, but once I found out where they were in the pecking order, because there's three groups in which you have to submit your bids. There's non-playoff teams with 6 or fewer wins, and then there's non-playoff teams with more than 6 wins, and then there's the playoff teams. And then group 1, gets first dibs, and group 2 and group 3. The Colts were in group 1, but they were in the back part of group 1. I guess there's some weighted lottery system that takes place, but I guess the Colts basically drew short straws. So who knows if they put in bids? I think Chris Ballard is probably going to have to answer that one. But I mean, no biggie that they didn't get anyone. It's a little bit of a bummer, but at the same time, you don't really want to give up a pick for next year. They did have an extra second, but second was too high to begin with.
And our Stephen Reed pointed out that the Colts are likely to get a 4th round comp pick next year.
Yeah, from Moncrief. Yeah,
right. So that could have been a possibility, maybe we thought, but once it got past the 4th round, you just kind of figure that this isn't happening.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been surprised to find out if the Colts put in a bid, just because they did have reported interest in Beal, Alexander, and Bryant. Bryant even said that the Colts and the Ravens were his 2 favorite interviews. And I think the Colts were one of like 4 teams to have meetings with Adonis Alexander. But just where they were in the pecking order, it probably made them a long shot unless they were going to submit a bid that we know was probably richer than what Chris Ballard would want to put in. Like you said, Steven mentioned earlier on Twitter, I think it was Steven, that if there was someone they were going to want to get who was probably going to go in the 3rd round, like Beal, they would have had to submit that in the 3rd round and not waited for the 4th round, because where they were placed, it just was not going to happen.
Right.
So, I mean, we know Chris Ballard. He's not going to come off of his spot and cross a line that he doesn't think, that he thinks might be too rich. So, if something is too early for him or too expensive, whatever it may be, he's just not going to do it. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to find out just the placement, it wasn't going to happen, or that, they just got screwed by sitting so far back in group 1.
Yeah. I was kind of on the fence about a little bit of everything, to be quite honest with you. I wasn't sure if they would. I didn't sure if they should. But we just keep doing what we did with Ryan Grigson. We're doing it again with Chris Ballard. We're going to keep doing it. We're just going to keep guessing. It's going to do this. And we want him to do those flashy things occasionally, because that's what gets everybody excited. But in reality, man, Mr. Cool, Mr. Smooth, he just does not chip, does he? I mean, he don't rust, that dude, he knows what he wants to do. He's going to do it. And he's not, man, he is not for flash, I don't think, too much, unless you really feel. I mean, there's a lot of strategies with drafting and free agency and all that stuff. One of the things that we often talk about is you build through the draft until you're 1 player away, and then you sign 2 or 3 that can help you get there. You know what I mean? That's kind of one of those things where you think you've got a chance with 1 player, and you go out and get 3 playmakers that can, of some sort, that can get you to the next level. And I kind of feel that that's Chris Ballard. He's going to get this team built up over the next couple years. Hopefully they can make a couple pushes, still draft well, depending on where they draft each year. And then when he's that player or 2 away, then he's going to go bonkers, and he's going to bring in some guys and really put it all in for that 1 year with some of those extra free agents. And then he's still going to have a crap ton of drafted talent underneath that to try to keep that streak going, that elongation of some sort of, ultimately every GM's desire is to build a dynasty, right? And that's how he's going to try and do it, I think. So we continue to doubt him and question him, but he's just so right by the book, his own book. I mean, his binder is his binder. That's his life right there, and he's living by it.
Yeah, as long as he's making good draft picks and doesn't have to immediately correct some of those picks with free agents.
Right.
Because, I mean, sometimes you make a draft pick and you have to rely on that person within a year or 2. if that's a bad pick, sometimes you have to fix it immediately, and that that might come with a free agent. So as long as his draft picks continue to be pretty solid, I don't think he's got anything to worry about. But like you said, we've seen it before. Just an example that comes to mind, I think when the Patriots picked up Darrelle Revis and Brandon Browner, I think they won the Super Bowl that year. I don't even remember what it was. They at least got there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the Patriots are always there, so that's probably a crappy example. But, they did it with Randy Moss and Wes Welker, too. They find the missing guys or someone who can put them over the top, and it does take them to where they're looking to go. So smart teams do that. They draft their roster, and then they fill any immediate holes that can get them there with free agents. So you got to respect a man with a plan, and it seems to be working so far. So I'm not mad at him.
Right. So let's talk about a couple of things here just from the offseason program. Is there anything that stands out to you still to this day from that time that you think, holds some sort of significance going into the season? They kind of told us what their line is going to be or what their first offensive line team is going to be. They've kind of told us that the linebacking position will not be done until, preseason week 4, ultimately. And several other, little hints of what's going on. What's our biggest takeaway? And obviously excluding Andrew Luck, we know the situation with that, but what's our biggest takeaway from OTAs, the 3 phases of offseason programs? Excuse me. I'm just kind of failing to grab one and really hold it tight.
I guess one you could look at. Okay, I'll give 2 for offense, I guess. I think some people are just going to be wildly surprised by what we see on offense, just because we've kind of gotten used to seeing very bland vanilla offense, especially when Andrew Luck's not out there. That is not going to be how it is under Sirianni and Reich. I just don't think there's any chance. They've gotten a few guys who they have specifically to create mismatches. The combo of Jack Doyle and Eric Ebron seems like a souped up version of Dwayne Allen and Kobe Fleener. The Colts really have never had one of those small gadget mismatch running backs like Nyheim Hines. We've always been pestered by guys like Darren Sproles. That'll be new. And then offensive line depth is new. If we're going off of what we think the starting offensive line may be, or at least what it has looked like during the spring, there's guys on the second unit that are really good who have started for the Colts or who could maybe start for other teams. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on, is having actual quality depth on the line and going 2-3 deep in some spots with good players.
Right. Yeah. I think if I was to find one takeaway, it's just that there is, like I said, that there isn't one. The offensive change and alteration, complete different look and lack of a predictability and all that good stuff is going to be massive, huge for the Colts this year going into the season. I've been kind of focused on the defense only because I honestly don't have too many worries about the offense. I think Luck's going to start. I think he's going to play throughout the season, pending, obviously it's not like he couldn't, sprain an ankle or something completely different. I just mean you expect him to play all 16 games. You're going to have more weapons, I think, throughout, because you've got Ebron to step up. You've got Nyheim Hines, who's a guy who can dash in when he needs to. You've got a couple other running backs that are weapons, if nothing else. Not necessarily maybe 3 down backs, but they're definitely weapons. And then you've got a young group of receivers that's learning under T.Y. Hilton and Chester Rogers. And a couple some hungry guys, some good, potentially really long-lasting receivers for this team. So I think that's interesting. But defensively, I want to see what to expect, because every time I try to go through it in my head, man, I just can't wrap my head around it. I'm excited to see what this defense is all about, where the really the heart of rushing the passer getting through the offensive line, how much that legitimately can help with this young group. I think it helps a lot personally, but I just can't wait to see it. I want to see what it looks like. Does it look like guys running around crazy that don't know what the hell they're doing, or does it look like guys running around, like whatever? Man, I can't think of the word, but like designed chaos. You know what I'm saying? Like it's supposed to look that way or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there you go. Controlled chaos. Which one? I mean, do you expect? I guess on defense. I guess for lack of better words.
Oh, I think one big reason that we don't know much yet about the defense is because of all the injuries they've had on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Not necessarily injuries, but just guys rehabbing stuff, and just still kind of being reserved. Hopefully until training camp, we'll see. But you've got guys pretty much at every level who are expected to contribute who haven't been able to participate either at all or they've been in and out of practice in the spring. But I was your question of what I think it might look like. I'm trying to think back to the Dungy Tampa 2 days, and I just always remember when the defense was at its best. They always had smaller, faster guys. They swarmed to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime, let's say there was a pass or an outside run, within 5 yards or so, there were always at least a few guys that are swarming to the ball, one or two linebackers, a corner, and a safety always seem to be getting there right at the ball. And I'm hoping that's what we see from this new one. And maybe it's a staple of faster 4-3 teams like this, but I feel like the Seahawks are that way too. The Jaguars are definitely that way sometimes, Falcons. So I'm hoping we just see just kind of a defense that gets to the ball immediately and hopefully more pass rush because it's going to be up to that front four. There's not going to be those 3 down linemen and then 2 outside linebackers who may or may not get there. It's going to have to come from that front four. So we'll see how it goes. I'm just expecting to see a lot of speed and swarming to the ball, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd like that too. I hope for the controlled chaos because you want it to look crazy, but you also want to see some results. And, a lot of craziness can force, some crazy errors and long yards after the catch and stuff like that. Excuse me.
I think it's fine for defense to look crazy, honestly. Offense, not so much because it's supposed to be more planned, but
right.
Defense can look crazy.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. So man, what's going on with you? What is on your brain? What are you constantly thinking about heading into this season?
Probably camp battles and just wanting some of these guys who have been out during the spring to hopefully be back when camp starts, just so we can get some more definition on things. On the other hand, it's good that their backups have gotten critical reps in their absence, but at the same time, this is a new defense, and those guys who are missing have not gotten those reps. Obviously, I think some of them are good enough to where they'll be just fine within a short time when they do return. But just having more answers, I guess. I think once we get some of those guys back in the lineup, that will give more answers. I've really wanted to see how the Colts could use both Danico Autry and Tyquan Lewis, and whether we will get that inside-outside type of stuff. Lewis has been in and out of the lineup. Anthony Walker basically only was able to participate in about half of minicamp. He had his concussion. I don't think we're going to know anything about linebackers for a couple weeks into camp, just because they're going to be giving so many guys reps and giving them a chance to prove themselves. I think whoever does wind up being the starting 3, I think it will be a good bunch, but I just don't think we have any idea yet. And I think part of that is Darius Leonard not being out there.
Right.
But it'll be nice to finally see the safety duo of Hooker and Gathers out there. That's something we still haven't seen at all. When Hooker got hurt last year, Gathers came back shortly after. So they were never together last year, haven't been together yet this spring. So that's what I'm hoping for, is just getting some of these hurt dudes back.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you. That's kind of what everybody was hoping for when we drafted Hooker. Man,
Mhm.
we'll get Gathers back. We'll see those two, or we'll get Gathers back. Hooker's coming in. This could be wild.
Yeah.
And of course, we were thinking Quincy Wilson. Maybe Nate Hairston gets some backup reps. We don't know, but he outshined and held down that nickel spot. But now we got Desir, and we kind of assume Wilson, but Kenny Moore is a guy that they love. He
Mhm.
got a lot of the traits that Chris Ballard likes in a zone corner as well. I think Eberflus too. I think he's kind of talked him up quite a bit. So this corner is the corner group is one of the positions we continually talk about because it's just one of the most interesting of the year because it's those guys that we all have high hopes for, but then a bunch of guys underneath that nobody really knows much about other than maybe Chris Milton. I mean, don't be surprised, folks, if you don't know the names to these guys outside of Hairston, and Wilson and so on and more. But we got DJ White, Lashard Durr, Robert Jackson, which sounds like the Robert Jackson in Cincinnati. It's not. Chris Milton, like I said, Henry Tolliver, Jonte Baldwin. Nobody knows who those people are. That's our depth. That's
Mhm.
who are going to be fighting for that back end of the spot at that position. Man, is there any position that is like this? I mean, is linebacker like this? You think? I mean, is it that
Um,
bleak on the? Yeah, because I guess maybe linebackers really don't have determined starters yet, too. So I guess it kind of you
yeah.
have to put those in the same. In the
I am a little more confident in the linebacker group just because they at least have guys there who have done it.
Mhm.
They're relying a lot on unproven guys at corner right now. I believe they can do it, but they also don't have great depth either, which would have been another reason why it would have been nice to see if Beal or Alexander could have wound up with them. But I mean, they have a plan. They obviously they've bypassed a lot of opportunities to pick up some really decent cornerback prospects throughout the entire offseason.
Right.
Um, but to me, corner is probably the biggest question mark, maybe on the roster, just because the guys they are relying on, none of them have played a full season, really. Quincy hasn't, Desir hasn't, Kenny Moore. He wasn't a starter all year, but he was pleasantly surprising. I do like him. Hairston, he did play all year in the slot. That was good. But like the guys they're counting on to start on the outside, lots of questions there, and without a ton of depth. So we'll see how those guys do in camp. Um, I'm sure it'll probably wind up working itself out. It'll be fine. There'll probably be some guys at the end of preseason cut downs who they bring in. I feel like cornerback is always one of the groups that they acquire guys there at the end of the summer quite a bit. So, yeah, the linebacker, I think they at least have guys who, even if the guys who they hope grab starting spots don't, they at least have guys who have been there before and could start if needed to, if that makes sense. So they've at least got a little more veteran dependability at linebacker, I think, even if they don't know who the starters are yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, we're back here with Jake Arthur from Colts.com. Man, do we think that Kamiko Turi could possibly play some outside linebacker this year? I know they keep talking about him. They want to see his hand in the dirt. But is he one of those guys that could possibly get some reps at the Sam?
Um,
Just in your opinion, because I mean, he just seems like a natural guy to move between several positions.
I think he's probably capable, kind of in that, not trying to compare him to Von Miller, but like Von Miller has done a lot of edge rushing as a 4-3 outside linebacker, and he's done a lot of off-ball linebacker stuff too. So is Toure capable of it? Probably. He was a linebacker at Rutgers, and he did a lot of off-ball linebacker stuff at Rutgers. But I just think they probably want to have him sit there and groom at defensive end and have that be his focus. That would be my guess, is guys who they think can be good pass rushers. I think that's all they want them to focus on. And that's kind of the case with John Simon too. You know, for a long time, all offseason, most of us assumed Simon was going to be a linebacker in this new scheme, and then they come out and say that he's going to be a defensive end. They haven't flinched on that.
Right.
Unless in camp it doesn't look like he can do it. I think they want anyone who they think can rush the passer, I think they want in their stable of pass rushers at defensive end, and some who can play defensive tackle. I think that's the whole goal of this defense, is to generate pressure up front and then have decent cover guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little more about the offensive line here, man. And then we'll kind of get out of here because we're going to try and keep this under an hour if at all possible.
We never do that.
No, we never do. We never do. I'm trying to be responsible now, man.
Okay.
I want to thank anybody who's watching, listening. Thank you guys all. You've been great. Go to iTunes. We're not done yet. I just want to remind you, go to Apple Podcasts, not iTunes. I always say that. Give us a rating and review. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go follow myself. Go follow Jake Arthur, NFL on Twitter, all that good stuff. Want to make sure I get that in because I feel like I'm always putting that at the very end of the show, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that we appreciate everything they're doing here for the Colts cast. So we definitely do, and things are going to get great this year. We've got a lot of things coming up that have kind of been under wraps lately, so I'm pretty excited to kind of unveil some of the stuff that we've got going on. But the offensive line, Jake, Braden Smith comes in, super athletic. Obviously, we know, the big one there with what we've got at the offensive line now. The Colts picked at number 1 overall, or I'm sorry, their first round pick, number 1 overall. But lots of depth, like you said. Offensive line depth is weird. Like with LaRaven Clark now, Braden Smith, some of the guys that are going to be coming in a little bit like Austin Howard is probably going to start. But we've got Jack Muhort or Slauson. I think Muhort's actually better than Slauson, but it looks like Slauson's the guy they've got pegged in at right guard. I mean, Quentin Nelson at left guard. Ryan Kelly's going to come back kicking people's asses. We know that. That's who Ryan Kelly is. I don't know if people around the league know that. Ryan Kelly's going to come back and have an excellent season. And that interior and that left side, and we don't know about the right. Hopefully Howard can really play well. But we've got some depth there, like you said earlier, man. We've got good LaRaven Clark battling for that, spot over there. We've got maybe one of them battling for the left tackle spot. A lot of guys vying for some interior offensive line. I don't think that there's any chance that this offensive line this year is any less than and this sounds ridiculous because it sounds like we're pumping it up. But hey, have you seen the Colts line over the past several years? We need to pump it up a little bit, and pumping it up a little bit is getting inside the top 20, in my opinion, this year as a unit. As a unit being in the top 20. I think that they're going to go higher than that, but I want to be somewhat relaxed on my predictions with this because I think that this offensive line can be really, really good. And I think they're going to be really, really good in the run. And I know that they're going to be much better in pass protection just with the bodies that they've got. They've literally got to have 3 or 4 injuries, like big ones, along that line to resemble anything like what they were last year. And Andrew Luck back, I just see that this is an insane year for this offensive line. It's going to finally get the Colts, I think, some notice if they're able to make and push through and make some sort of a playoff push. If there's any hope for that, I think the offensive line is going to be key to it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a big part of it is going to be just the fact that there's an emphasis on getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quicker. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like an easy thought to make, especially when you don't have good linemen. But, now that you do have good linemen and to still do that's in the passing game, that's going to be a huge weight off their shoulders. They're not going to have to hold blocks very long. And I'm sure not all the receivers are going to have these long developing routes. So the Colts, honestly, were already a pretty good run blocking line. They're at least average. I can't say pretty good, but they're at least average. And then now if they can keep the quarterback under 25 sacks, 25 seems probably high for other teams around the league, but here 25 or less sacks would be a huge improvement, I think.
Yes.
You also have to think about quarterback hits. Like, let's please not have Luck be hit 100+ times. That would be dope.
Right. Right.
I can't think right now of what like normal teams, how few hits they have normally. Like, who is the 16th most hit team quarterback? Like, how many hits do they have? Around there would be nice. Like
Average.
the good thing about the Colts is in order for them to have offensive line improvement right now, they really can only go up.
Mm-hmm.
So just about anything is going to be improvement. But with the guys they've added, we could see enormous improvement considering where they're coming from. So, dude, that could be nice. Like you said, I think that will be a huge factor on if they're going to make a playoff push or not, because teams with crappy offensive lines just don't get very far into the playoffs.
Right.
If they win a game or two, they go up against a team that has a really good pass rush and they can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that 100 times before from playoff teams. They could have a good quarterback or a good running back, whatever, but they eventually face a defensive line that's way better than their offensive line, and their season's done. So we'll see. It's part coaching and it's part the players they added, but I think there will be a big improvement.
Yeah. Rookies report the 22nd of July. The rest of the team reports the 25th for training camp, folks. It's just a couple weeks away. Grand Park is going to be exciting, Jake. Amazing facilities. Finally getting back out onto the field and watching these guys in training camp will be a much needed sight to see Andrew Luck out there with them this year. And this entire new look. I mean, it's going to be fun seeing Frank Reich as opposed to Chuck Pagano out there, running the practices. I'm excited to see. George Bremer always tells us that everything is, all right, get there. Once something's over, get your butt moving to the next thing. It was a little more lax. I think we saw that under Pagano, and I don't think that's there. I think that the players are respecting that, at least from what George has relayed to us in the past. And I think that that's crucial as well. This team, especially as young as it is, sees him as the guy who's telling everyone what to do and that they need to do it. And then they've got just enough of some of that veteran leadership to where they can really pull the rest of the team, hitch their trailer to those guys, and they can really take off. So I'm excited. It's not a bunch of veterans. This team is one of the youngest in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be such an exciting training camp, dude. I'm excited to get down there. I'm excited to get down, hang out with you a little bit, and see what the Colts have to offer us here before the preseason starts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. And I mean, this will be my first opportunity really in a couple years to get an extended look at the team. I've only been to a couple practices so far during the spring. And then last year, I think I only was at camp 1 or 2 days. So I'm planning on being there every single day this year. So I'm really looking forward to that, and just that occupying my time and seeing what this team looks like, seeing what drastic changes there might be. But like you said, with the coaching staff, how fast paced everything is, and no one being comfortable or complacent. And, with these young guys, they're hungry, and most of the guys on the roster pretty much are new. And, they are going to still be listening, to the new coaching staff. So it'll be refreshing to see how guys respond now.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you guys are checking out Jake's work at Colts.com. Catch him on Twitter at Jake Arthur NFL. Jake, it was great catching back up with you, man. Congratulations on your move to Colts.com. We miss you, but we're all watching you and watching you shine, dude. We're happy for you. And thanks for gracing the Colts cast with your presence tonight, my man.
No, this place is always home. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thank you guys all for watching, listening. Whatever you're doing, again, make sure you guys are going out and getting the podcast a rating and review. Those help. We got a lot of shows coming up here in the next couple weeks to where we're really going to amp things up as we prepare for training camp. We're going to have a presence at training camp as well as a video and audio. We're all set for this. So make sure you guys are watching closely. Check me out on Twitter at mdanelysb and at SB Colts Cast as well for the show. As always, get to Stampede Blue for all your Indianapolis Colts news and analysis. We'll talk to you guys next time right here on the Colts Cast.